To close off this chapter on becoming conscious while dreaming, we'll be talking about actions to be done when becoming conscious while dreaming, or getting lucid, strategy for action, and then in the end, he lists a bunch of different bullet points going over a lot of the common mistakes that people tend to make. So we'll cover a couple of those. But first off, actions to be done once you get lucid. And so this first recommendation is actually something you want to build in deep enough to essentially be automatic, like the first thing you do every time you become lucid. And that is what he calls deepening techniques, which is also what I've called in the past over the years, like dream stabilization techniques. He actually has an entire chapter dedicated to this, a couple chapters from now. But one that I like is like I'll look at my feet and I'll start walking, and then I'll say this phrase out loud as I'm doing it. This is my floor. Then it also works good if you want to like walk up a wall or walk on the ceiling for whatever reason. Or say if you're trying to get up, on top of something really high and you're having a hard time flying or you can't jump your way up there, you can simply just do this technique, walk up the wall or whatever it is you're trying to get on top, and then boom, you're on the top. Then the next thing you want to do right after that is execute your previously determined plan of action, which means you have to actually have a previously determined plan of action, which is definitely something that's very good to have. That's one that in the vast majority of my lucid dreams, I do not have, which is why I end up defaulting just to playing around and having fun in my lucid dreams, but definitely better to have a previously determined plan of action. Then he kind of warns against returning to your stencil body. So say like, you're in your lucid dream or your phase experience, you go back to your house, you go into your bedroom, and you see what appears to be your body lying there asleep on the bed. So what he says is you don't actually want to touch it or try to lie into your body because it has the very high likelihood of actually waking you up, which is something that has happened to me the few times that I've been in that situation. And then for strategies for action. So really, he's just talking about here how you want to keep your practice very consistent because you're really trying to build in your habit with these various techniques that we were covering earlier. You want to build those things in deep so that, they really get sunk into your mind and they can actually work. These techniques should not be abandoned after first yielding results, though a gradual decrease in practice is generally acceptable. So like once you really get it down solid, then you can kind of lay off of practicing so intensely on it. But, in the beginning, when you're really trying to build in these habits, like say, such as doing your reality checks and stuff like that, you really want to sink that stuff in. So you want to be doing it a lot, at the beginning of your practice. But then like for me, because I have my reality checks sunk so deep into my head, I pretty rarely ever do reality checks nowadays. I mean, I will throw it into my practice occasionally. If I'm trying to like actually dream about something that I'm trying to, have happen in my dreams. So like anytime that thought or idea will pass my mind while I'm awake, I'll do a reality check in that sense. And in that way, hopefully if that idea or thought or situation passes by in my dreams, it will cue me in to do my reality check there. Then he says, if you've been, trying to become conscious while in a dream, or like the Dale, the dream-induced lucid dream method, and you've been trying for a couple months with no results, then he says, take a week or two off and then return to it. Something I would add in there to those, if you are going to take your week or two off, is to actually pick, this day I'm stopping, and then on this day specifically, I'm going to start up again. And then what happens a lot too is actually when you do kind of take some of that pressure off of yourself, when you're taking that break, just, spontaneously, that's when you actually will have those lucid dreams, which is going to get to one of these bullet points I'm going to cover here in a second, but we'll do that one last. So the first bullet point he brings up when, of common mistakes people tend to make is continuing to yield to the plot of the dream even after achieving dream consciousness or becoming lucid, just because that's a good way to get you wrapped back up in the plot of the dream and lose your lucidity or conscious awareness. The next one, incorrectly answering the question, am I dreaming while you're dreaming? And this actually stems a lot, I think, from when you're doing your reality checks and stuff in your waking state, because you're just gonna, you'll be doing, what's the point of doing this reality check? I obviously know I'm awake, but then that habit of just, obviously, you're awake, that will follow you into your dreams when you are trying to do this reality check or ask yourself this question, am I dreaming? So you really want to try to answer that question mindfully. One way I like to do it, a nice simple way to kind of just do this really quickly in your head, is you think about what you're doing, what you're doing just prior to that, and then, maybe even prior to that, and make sure everything checks out and lines up. The next one, when exercising memory development, recalling the most vivid dreams instead of every dream. So that's another good one too. Now you want to try to, when you're trying to strengthen your dream recall, try to recall as many different dreams as you can from the night. And that just has a better way of, strengthening that memory development. And then this last one is one I actually kind of disagree with, although it kind of goes against this whole, trying for 2 months with no success, taking a week or two off thing. But he recommends attempting dream consciousness while performing other phase entrance techniques, so that'd be like the indirect or direct methods, when it is better to focus on dream consciousness alone. Now, for me personally, I mean, I could see where he's coming from. He's basically saying you're just putting too much mental effort into it and it'll kind of exhaust you out from it, or also maybe just like put too much pressure on your shoulders to try and be successful, and then that can kind of mess you up. But for me, like the more I sink my mind, you know, into my lucid dreaming practice, that does pretty much have a direct effect on upping the chances of me getting lucid. But that could just kind of be a me thing. I don't know, but play around with it if you feel like you're putting a lot of effort in. And I've seen a lot of people over the years who are trying really, really hard to get into their lucid dreaming practice, but they just can't be successful. So if that's the case, I would say maybe try backing off some, and, you know, maybe only focusing on one of these techniques, whether it be the indirect method, direct method, or dream consciousness method. But, you know, also play around with it too, man. If you want to sink your mind into it, you know, have it envelop your entire life and see if it's successful, maybe it'll work for you like it works for me. But anyway, with that said, that will wrap up this chapter, and we'll be moving on to the next one next. Until then, keep your phase practice legit.